The Genoese crossbowmen, masters of medieval warfare. Good evening to all time travelers. Before we begin, we invite you to subscribe to our channel to support us and help us grow. Thank you and happy listening. In this journey, we will explore one of the most fascinating and significant figures of the Middle Ages, the Genoese crossbowmen. These skilled mercenaries, armed with their powerful crossbows, were protagonists of many conflicts that marked the history of medieval Europe. During this documentary, we will delve into their origins, evolution, and the decisive role they had on the battlefields, starting from the 11th century until reaching the peak of their employment in memorable battles. We will analyze their techniques, equipment, and strategies that made them masters of the art of war. The illustrations in the documentary are intended to represent, in an indicative way, the technology of the crossbows used by the Genoese crossbowmen over the centuries. Although some details have been simplified or stylized for visual reasons, these images capture the essence and spirit of the era without claiming absolute technical accuracy. The Genoese crossbowmen were among the most respected mercenaries in medieval Europe, known for their ferocity and reliability. They defended the Republic of Genoa and fought in several European armies, building a solid reputation. Their symbol, the banner of St. George, struck fear into many and often forced opposing commanders to reconsider their strategies. However, despite their prestige, they suffered a significant defeat at the Battle of Crécy in 1346. The Genoese crossbowmen became a distinct force in the late 11th and early 12th centuries, when Genoa decided to establish a regulated corps for specific tactical purposes. This elite corps quickly became the core of the Genoese army, although historical documentation on the subject is scant. According to historian Fabio Romanoni, most recruits came from the lower social classes and from neighboring regions such as Savona, Monferrato, and even Corsica. Recruiting a crossbowman required a rigorous assessment of physical and mental abilities, as well as an oath of loyalty to the Republic. The training, which took place in Genoa, included the use of the crossbow, an innovative weapon that required less training than the longbow, but was equally feared for its lethality. Despite its potential, the crossbow was the object of opposition, such as that of Pope Urban II, who in 1193 prohibited its use against Christians. In the Middle Ages, the use of the crossbow was often criticized for its devastating piercing power, which was considered unchivalrous. However, practical needs quickly overtook moral concerns, and according to experts in medieval military technology, the crossbow was already widely used in European armies by the 10th century. The Genoese crossbowmen used heavy crossbows made by the Guilda dei Ballisti of Genoa, which included a belt hook essential for loading the weapon. To load, the shooter would secure a foot to the front support, hook the string with the hook, and pull it back, finally attaching it to a nut to prepare the crossbow for firing. The first Genoese crossbows, used between the 10th and early 14th centuries, had wooden bows which were gradually replaced by stronger composite bows made of wood, animal sinew, and horn. In the 15th century, the first steel bows appeared, probably in Germany, but their greater draw weight required tools such as winches and levers to load them. The Genoese crossbowmen's equipment was constantly evolving. By the 10th century, the average crossbowman wore a light helmet, mail, and carried daggers and short swords as secondary weapons. Also essential was the peves, a large, human-sized shield that was anchored to the ground and often wielded by a squire or jockey. The Genoese crossbowmen were not limited to land combat. They were also essential in the defense of fortresses and in naval battles, such as those of Meloria, 1284, and Curzola, 1298. The units were organized into flags of 20 men commanded by a sergeant, who could be grouped into larger companies under the command of a chief commander. Although Genoa tried to maintain control over the use of the crossbowmen, formally prohibiting their service abroad without authorization, these rules were not always respected. During the First Crusade, 1999, they were deployed against the Mamluk archers, led by Admiral Guglielmo Embriaco. Later, in 1992, some Genoese crossbowmen, in the service of Richard the Lionheart, defended Jaffa from the assault of the Sultan Saladin using an innovative strategy. Pavesi shields and spears formed a bulwark, behind which the crossbowmen, organized in 2 rows, took turns loading and shooting. This tactic, although not always applied, demonstrates the effectiveness of their formations. However, the large pavese shield, essential for their protection during the loading, made their movements on the battlefield slower and more cumbersome. Therefore, the success of the Genoese crossbowmen depended on precise tactical planning and favorable terrain, with a clear and stable field of fire to make the most of their skills. Initially employed to defend the city-states of northern Italy, the Genoese crossbowmen soon became highly sought-after mercenaries throughout Europe. During the Hundred Years' War, they played a significant role, especially in the Battle of Crécy in 1346, one of the most famous battles in medieval military history. Here, Edward III of England launched an offensive to claim the French throne, advancing with a well-equipped army. Philip VI of France quickly gathered his forces, which included some 26,000 Genoese crossbowmen, and pursued the English northward. On August 26, the French army reached Crécy, preparing for a decisive battle. Despite their reputation, the Genoese crossbowmen found themselves at a disadvantage. Positioned in the vanguard, an atypical fact in the military strategy of the time, they were deprived of their essential pavese shields and had limited access to ammunition. This logistical error, combined with light armor, left them vulnerable to enemy attack. Forced to retreat quickly under devastating fire from English longbows, the crossbowmen were overwhelmed by the French cavalry, who interpreted the retreat as cowardice or even treachery. This misunderstanding caused disaster. The ensuing chaos turned the French crossbowmen and knights into sitting ducks for the English archers. Despite the crushing defeat, the Genoese crossbowmen continued to be sought-after mercenaries for many years. However, with the introduction of firearms, the crossbow began to lose its importance on the battlefield, marking the decline of these elite warriors. Eventually, the crossbow became a weapon used primarily for hunting, and the Genoese crossbowmen gradually withdrew from the military scene. The story of the Genoese crossbowmen is an example of how technological innovation and political dynamics can influence warfare. Their skill with the crossbow made them a fearsome force on the battlefield for centuries, but technological progress eventually pushed them into oblivion. Despite this, their contribution to European military history remains significant, not only for their prowess in battle, but also as a testament to adaptation, ingenuity, and resilience in an age of constant change. Thanks for watching the video until the end. If you liked it, leave us a nice like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next content. Don't forget to activate the notification bell to stay updated. We'll see you in the next video. See you soon.